Today we're taking a look at the Illinois again. This ship has been one of the most interesting ones to come out in a while, at least in my opinion. I think it is such a different experience than most other ships in the game, and that's why I've really enjoyed playing it. And on top of that, it's actually a very, very powerful ship too, so that helps in the enjoyment. Today we're going to have an absolutely ridiculous game, the most amount of damage I've managed to do in it so far. And I expect to have some pretty good games like this going forward as well, as I get used to the shell velocity. That's going to be probably the most difficult thing to get used to when you're playing this ship. It is very, very difficult to hit things consistently at longer ranges. And we're doing a decent job here on the Georgia, but to be fair, he's a pretty big target and not really maneuvering all that much. So a nice start, but that will be the pain point, I think, on this ship. The DPM is amazing. I really love the way this ship combines the strength of a battleship in its armor and general tankiness. It's still very easy to get burnt down and killed in this if you overextend, but it's a pretty tanky ship overall, even if it does have a little bit less HP. Combined with some pretty consistent guns out of a cruiser. That's one of the benefits of a cruiser, is just that overall DPM consistency. And you're going to see that on full display here. With Des Moines guns, our HE is extremely powerful. And of course, so is our armor piercing. If I had to really say anything, as I've played this ship more and more, I think I need to be shooting AP more often. Even though the HE is really good, and fires are ridiculously powerful against battleships, there's going to be some scenarios here where I obviously should have been shooting armor piercing, and I just wasn't. So as I'm playing more, you can expect to see a little more of that. The reload here is pretty awesome, but as you can see, our dispersion, it's suffering a little bit. I'm actually running reload mod in this game. I've done a bit of both, and I really can't say which one is necessarily my favorite. I really, really love the DPM that I gain from reload mod, but the accuracy is pretty nice, especially if we start using armor piercing a little bit more. The accuracy is going to become a much bigger deal because we need to pinpoint specific targets of ships, not just citadels. Of course, that is going to be very useful against cruisers. But into battleships, you want to be targeting the upper belt, lower superstructures, that kind of thing with armor piercing. And if you don't have great dispersion, that might not go so well. Last salvo here into the submarine, and we do actually manage to take him out, which feels pretty good. The extra DPM or reload we're getting is really nice on a battleship. There's a lot of flexibility here in which targets you're able to choose. If you're able to push up and play with your teammates a lot with this ship, you can be farming the battleship, but then instantly swap over to a destroyer or cruiser that gets spotted and is a more optimal target to shoot at, right? With a battleship, you do want to be saving your salvo at times. You don't always want to be shooting on cooldown if you think there's potential that a more higher priority target is going to come into view that you can possibly shoot at, and then help your team win the game that way. At least here, our reload is so quick that we can easily swap back and forth, and it's really not much of a deal at all. AP Conqueror, a little surprising to see. He does get a decent chunk into us. Here's an example where I probably should be shooting armor piercing, although I see his damage control has just been used, and I'm a little greedy for permanent fires. I think we even end up getting one, which honestly, after one, especially against a broadside battleship like this, I should just be swapping over to the armor piercing. Gets a ridiculously good salvo into us with the HE, although perhaps not quite as crazy. 10k salvos are pretty common in Conqueror with HE, and we're doing similar back to him with a much faster reload, actually. But you notice the health pool, right? This 68,000 HP. It's not a ton against tier 10s, and certainly not against super ships, even less than Iowa gets, right? You do have to manage your HP, although I will say this ship will be a little bit better than what I'm showing here. I'm limited to a 19-point commander in this video, but once I get it on my main channel, you better believe Halse plus a 21-point commander is going to be pretty awesome. I expect some ridiculous experiences once I get a Halse Confederate in this ship. And I don't think it'll be terribly difficult to do as well, since the reload is so good. Confederates, of course, you need to do 20% of 6 of the enemy's ships' HP, something like that, which isn't particularly difficult to do when you have this kind of DPM and the flexibility to move on from ship to ship. I think it won't be very difficult at all, actually, which will be just ridiculous with this level of DPM already. You're going to notice, of course, that at really long ranges, we will struggle as this Georgia leaves our range. You start to have to lead it more and more and more as people are running away. At 11 kilometers, it's pretty easy to aim these guns, but once we get out to 15 to 18 kilometers, it becomes a little bit tricky. Part of me thinks I want to not run range mod and maybe run the turret traverse upgrade in the 3rd slot. Of course, we don't have the option of accuracy there since we're an American battleship. We only get the accuracy in the 6th upgrade slot. We'll look at the build, though, towards the end. I think this is a relatively flexible ship. You can really do a lot of different things. But yeah, the dispersion is pretty brutal without accuracy upgrade. Maybe we're missing out on DPM simply because our shells are missing. That would be something to consider in favor of accuracy mod instead of the reload. But as you can see, the Georgia, as he's running away, we have to lead so far. But get a lucky fire there at the end. We are already up to 168,000 damage. And then we have a Conqueror to deal with at relatively close range. I think Illinois is probably at its best at around 10 kilometers and probably below too. It's really strong at closer ranges. I think the difficulty at close range is that it's going to be very difficult to disengage with this ship. That low HP pool can come into play there, especially against higher tier ships where you don't necessarily want to be stuck in a brawl all the time with this ship. You can see how we're playing around islands, trying to play it a bit like a Des Moines, a bit like that American heavy cruiser playstyle. We just have the option of pulling out here and being able to tank some Conqueror salvos here, where at Des Moines, maybe you wouldn't want to be just out in the open like this. Look at that AP, though. At that angle, we did 8,500 damage with a single salvo. And then the follow-up with just front guns is nearly 6K. Yeah, I should be using armor piercing more. It's really strong. That improved pen angle is pretty insane. Conqueror, of course, is a relatively squishy ship, so we should expect to do pretty good damage here. Assuming we're aiming into the upper belt, we can't really reasonably expect to be citadeling battleships, even at close range with these smaller caliber guns, so realistically, you're going to be going for the upper belt. And we sure do take them out. Even though the Conqueror did get a few good hits into us, we're doing okay. And now we get to farm a Bismarck, 228k already. Of course, 300k games plus all these amazing experiences. You have to have a bit of luck on your side to get these kind of games. Not only do you have to get an enemy team that allows you to farm that much damage off of them, you also have to have a friendly team that isn't so good or so bad that the game is over within 5 to 10 minutes, right? These games do have to last a very long time to get this kind of damage, at least in a tier 9. I think some of the super ships with the inflated HP pools at that tier, you can get some 300k games that are relatively quick, but here where the HP pools are a little smaller, yeah, that's maybe not the case. Firing at a Bismarck here, we do want to be focusing a superstructure. This is a bit of a difficult ship to deal with, since the upper belt is more armored than most. Into a Conqueror, it's a 32 mil upper belt. Most American battleships as well, 32, 38 mil. Yamato, 32 millimeter upper belt, which means it's very easy to pen it with armor piercing. German battleships aren't quite as easy to pen, so we're going to get a lot of shatters and bounces, as you can see there, at least at these angles. So even if we aim up into the superstructure, the damage just isn't there as much with the armor piercing. Only if he's really flat broadside do I want to be using the AP there. HE just into the superstructure tends to be the way to go. In my last video on this ship, we definitely noticed the shell arcs made for making islands really good, even if you were quite close to them. And here you can see that as well. We're able to just barely get over this island, even though we're pretty close to it. Now we get a great opportunity to use the armor piercing here. Again, Des Moines guns into cruisers. Yeah, you're going to do good damage into them at closer ranges. Unfortunately, only 2 citadels there, so not quite enough to take him out, but a decent amount of damage into the Stalingrad there. We'll try and push around behind him a little bit later and try and take him out, but that's a good example too of using armor piercing and then wanting more accuracy instead of DPM there. We get that only that one chance to damage the Stalingrad there. It might have been a little better with a little better accuracy. Our team is melted a little bit, but the enemy team doesn't have that much HP left, even though they do have quite a few ships alive. So if we're able to take out a few of them, there's a chance, small chance, but there is a chance that we can carry this one into the late game. Of course, it starts with this Georgia here, and then the Stalingrad. So all we have to do is push around behind him, and he might be forced out into the Kearsarge, or we're just going to catch up to him and improve pen angles. And at this range, yeah, there we go. We finally have enough accuracy, or at least we're close enough that the accuracy doesn't matter as much. So all we have left to deal with really is a DD, 2 battleships, and an Otago. I think here I play a little too passive. I run myself into the situation where I don't want to be caught bow in. I don't want to fully commit to a fight for the fear of just getting farmed out and dying very quickly. So I decide to turn away, but this really just makes sure that the enemy team wins here. I think the better play would have been for me to rush this island that's in between myself and the Otago right now, and then use that to limit the Otago's firing angles and potentially even the Yamato's as well. Maybe I could have taken a 1v1 against the Iowa as he's pushing in, but taking this kiting route, it's okay for farming damage in that, but I don't think it would have won the game looking back on things. We're up to 300k, as you can see, which feels pretty amazing in this ship. We've been shooting a lot, though. 415 hits already. That's pretty extreme. Our Kearsarge actually trades with the DD there. And then we're left alone versus 3. Here you can see exactly why I said if I'd gone for this island here just to the right of my crosshair, maybe I could have taken a 1v1 with the Iowa. The Otago wouldn't have been on my side here. And then, of course, the Yamato wouldn't be able to get as many shots in over the island. We'll still get to farm a little bit here, but the shell velocity and the dispersion isn't going to let us actually farm all that much damage up yet. So the Illinois, it's come out. It's out already. Update 12.2 has released, and 51,000 research points. I do think this ship is worth it. I don't know if it's worth it over the Ohio. Ohio is just such an amazing battleship at tier 10. It offers a lot more traditional battleship utility. I think the reason to get Illinois is because it's so unique. I think that's the main reason. It's a pretty strong ship, don't get me wrong, but the playstyle is just so unique. It's very, very different, and that's why I think you would probably want to get it. Where the Ohio gives you that more traditional battleship punching power, and I think is probably better overall, at least as the first Research Bureau ship. I don't think I'm going to change my opinion on that one. But I do realize that research points are extremely difficult to get. So if you're looking for a more unique experience and you don't feel like you necessarily need the Ohio, I could see you going for the Illinois, especially if you like the cruiser guns kind of playstyle here on the Illinois. It's a very, very solid ship. Think of research points, though, if you don't know. Think of it like ships that you can purchase for free XP. We still have a few of those available in the tech tree, but they won't be available for free XP specifically. With the release of update 12.4, they'll be moved to the Armory. It seems like Wargaming wants us to use our free XP to regrind lines quickly and then gain the research points and then purchase ships that way. At least that's how I've been mostly using my free XP. And I do think Illinois is probably worth all the time spent grinding that, but it does take a while. As you can see, 321,000 damage. Pretty ridiculous game. Unfortunately, we do end up in a loss, but pretty extreme an example of how much damage the Illinois is capable of pumping out. So that game, as you guys can see, was actually played before I bought the Illinois on my main account. But here we are now. Illinois here in the Research Bureau, 51,000 research points. Not cheap, but we are going to get it. I'm really enjoying this ship. I gotta say, it's a ton of fun. Let's go to tier 9 battleships here. Grab our Illinois. We're in the party port here in Rio de Janeiro. The update has definitely made this port pretty interesting. Ooh, and a nice sunset too, honestly. It's pretty good. But the Illinois, as far as the commander build, it's definitely going to be Halse. I have to run this thing. Although I do have my Ohio build here. We're running secondaries, but on the Illinois, I'm going to change that up a little bit. I do like the AA upgrades, surprisingly, on this ship. It tends to get focused a little bit, so it's nice to have the extra AA, and it's a little better than Iowa AA, actually. It's close to Ohio levels, which is actually pretty good. We're going to take some pretty standard upgrades. I think that's how I'll run it, just like this. We love gun feeder on all American ships with this upgraded one. And then I do think the extra heal might have helped me out. I didn't actually have that in this game because I was running a 19-point commander, and I wanted Adrenaline Rush and this. I forget what exact build I was running, but this is probably what I'm going to be running on this ship for the foreseeable future. Definitely going to play a lot of games in it with this build. And then, of course, we do have to grab ourselves reload or accuracy. Well, considering I had such a good game with reload, I'll probably start with that. Concealment, of course. Propulsion is very nice to have, especially on a ship that is maneuvering around islands a lot, which we definitely are. We definitely want to play islands quite a bit. Taking range for now. We'll see if I end up changing that in the future. But that is going to be the way I play this ship. We're going to probably lose one of these, take our det flag. Not a huge fan of detonating, I'll be honest with you, so we'll do something a little bit closer to that. So the Illinois, I do think, is worth getting if you are someone who's played the game a long time and you are capable of grinding out research points. It is a late game resource. This is a late game ship. It's very, very unique. As far as grinding research points, I haven't done exactly a guide on it, but since this ship is research points, I should mention it. The best way to do that is actually going to the Harugumo line. If you have it unlocked, this tends to be the cheapest one to free XP back. And what I would do is I would click reset, and then all these ships would go away and look exactly like they would if I had never played the line, except they would have a little icon just like this that would show each one of them has some points in them. And then I would just use all this free XP, free XP the line, and then I'd play one game in each in likely co-op. That's typically what I end up doing. And then that allows me to get the research points as quickly as possible and mostly as efficiently as possible as well. That's typically how I've been doing it. So let me know what you think of the Illinois. It's a pretty insane game. Definitely going to be playing it some more. Maybe not necessarily showing it on the channel as much. We'll see. But it's a very unique experience. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.